It appears in light of Dylan Mulvaney, men seem to be dominating in women's spaces once again.
You are tuning in to the Morning Fix.
You're tuning into the Morning Fix.
Now get up and grab your fix.
Grab your fix.
My name is Macho. I'm the host of the Morning Fix live radio show. I stream daily from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern, and we cover politics, culture, and relationships. We cover a wide spectrum of things so we can have the conversation that are most polarized in today's society. So instead of it staying polarized, let's normalize the conversation to work through some hard, difficult topics so that we're not at odds with each other and we could just learn where to build bridges, where to tear them down and say, you go your way, I go mine. And that's that. Agree to disagree. That's the whole method of this channel. Now, I don't want us to get confused about the misgendering. That's not the intention. I do understand and fully validate that Dylan Mulvaney no longer identifies as a man. Dylan Mulvaney identifies as a woman. However, I don't believe that people are denying that right to be able to pronoun or identify as whatever you want to identify as. There seems to be a problem, and that is the experience of womanhood. There's a big conversation around that. I found a video done by a woman from the Heritage Foundation, and she had a remark about day one of Dylan Mulvaney's transitioning from a man to a woman. Here's a bit of that.
A girl, and I have already cried 3 times. I wrote a scathing email that I did not send. I ordered dresses online that I couldn't afford. And then when someone asked me how I was, I said, I'm fine, when I wasn't fine. So, how'd I do, ladies? Good? Girl power.
Mr. Dylan Mulvaney, you asked how you did. So I'm going to tell you honestly that I think you did pretty poorly, because what you've just described is a passive-aggressive, hormonal creature who's bad with finances and can't be trusted to tell the truth. And if that's what you think a woman is, I think you're sorely mistaken. Also, if this is your first day of being a woman, I'd like to know why you think it's something you can turn on or off. My first day of being a woman was the day I was born.
My day one of being a woman was the day I was born. Having that kind of validation just coming out of something that you didn't choose, being able to live in the very body that you had no decision in the choice of the matter of how you were constructed, how you were made. Some of the alterations that we make after we were born comes that just then, after we were born. A lot of uprising is happening right now because women feel invalidated by this very conversation. They will not admit it, they will not say it, but they're simply saying, how could someone who once was a man now identify as a woman, talk about what it is about being or experiencing life as a woman? Well, we have to stop playing this game and make sure that we stay in the category in which we identify. Every time cis, quote unquote, cisgendered women or biologically identifiable women, women who are assigned at birth, tend to bring up their pushback towards this conversation immediately across the social media world, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, doesn't matter. Anywhere around the world, you are seen as transphobic. That is highly problematic because you're not going to go out into the social media world and not at least greet some of the criticism to work through those nuances. The very reason why Kanye says the outrageous things he says is to start the conversation. Perhaps this is probably what Dylan Mulvaney is doing, start the conversation. But you can't just silence or now denigrate the other side that is bringing up their criticism. They should be allowed to exist in a safe space just like you're allowed to exist in a safe space of expression. That's fine. Have the conversation. You see, If you look at American history, the last thing we want to do is silence biological women. When we think about the first feminist movement in America, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Do you think right to vote? No, we have to think about what led to that. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, right before the Prohibition era, mothers were losing their husbands and sons to the overconsumption of alcohol. You had huge people, huge names like Carrie Nation. The reason why there was a push for a right to vote because people were not listening to the women who were leading in the anti-saloon league. That's where it all began. Fast forward to times like not only in the 1970s with freedom of expression, contraceptions, sexuality, move over to even the Me Too movement. You see how explosive it can be when women feel ignored or virtually invalidated. It's extremely problematic and it leaves the room for more bigger things to come. This is the result of what could possibly happen if we keep telling people you're transphobic if you push back against this. I would say not to do that. Perhaps we could exist in a world where we understand that there are differences in making those distinctions. You're a trans woman and trans man for a reason. We have to make those distinctions and we have to express them and understand that those distinctions are needed to be identifiable. For example, let me make a sports reference. You have a lot of baseball players who are possibly entering the Hall of Fame who have been caught using performance enhancement drugs. In Major League Baseball, if they're going to allow a person like Barry Bonds or Alex Rodriguez into the Hall of Fame, they're considering saying, hey, we'll put them in with an asterisk. That's to make the distinction that say, hey, we don't want to invalidate them as a player for their entire career because we only caught them during a specific time. So we can't say they've been using this the whole time, but they were exceptional players. Perhaps this example could be utilized in this realm of transgender affirmation. You could experience life as a trans woman, trans man from that perspective, going from one to another, talking about what it is to exist in that world. But to then say, hey, I'm living life in this particular place because this is my origin, this is my biological makeup. A lot of people are going to have questions, right? And why aren't we having those conversations? I don't know. But let's continue the conversation after this. Please consider like, share, and comment on this video so we can continue the conversation on The Morning Fix. Thank you. Every day at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on The Morning Fix. I'm your host, Macho.